Well, on November 1st, 3 of the top tech firms will testify before Congress. Lawmakers want them to answer publicly about Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. elections. But one congressman isn't waiting until then to challenge Silicon Valley. Representative Khanna of California has penned a stirring op-ed in the Washington Post titled, "Trump beat Silicon Valley at its own game. Now it must prove itself." In it, he takes big tech to tasks over a variety of issues from election meddling to diversity and more. He joins me now from Washington. Representative Khanna, thank you so much for joining us. So you say Trump used the tools of technology to win, despite Silicon Valley's overwhelming support for Hillary Clinton. It is almost as if Trump bested tech leaders at the game they invented. How so?
Well, Trump was very effective in using Twitter and Facebook to get passionate support to get his message out. But a lot of these platforms, of course, were abused. They amplified fake voices, extreme voices that pretended to be 10,000 people, even though there was only one person. They trafficked in false news. And so tech needs to help figure out how to solve some of these issues. We know it can empower individuals in extraordinary ways, but we need to fix the excess that we saw in the 2016 election cycle.
Right. You say tech tools should strengthen, not weaken democracy. And Russian interference aside, some would argue that, social media has dramatically increased the number of voices that are being heard. Can tech companies really be responsible for all of this?
Well, I actually think tech has played a very positive role overall. I mean, it gave the rise to Barack Obama, to Bernie Sanders. I often joke at town halls that the average person can have more of a voice by having a clever tweet or Facebook post than I can by speaking to an empty chamber in Congress. So tech has empowered individuals in extraordinary ways. But that said, there are things that, now that they have become a platform where almost 50% of Americans get their news there, that they need to do. One is having some basic differentiation between fact and opinion. Newspapers, TV stations like yours have third-party verification, and they independently check facts. There can be third-party verification on some of the posts. They should look at providing perhaps an alternative perspective if viewers want that alternative perspective. They just need to look at what their journalistic responsibilities can be without suppressing the freedom of expression. And I'm encouraged that a number of tech companies are doing that, and that dialogue has begun.
You wonder, though, how far these companies can go, how well companies can distinguish between fact and opinion when our own president may have a different opinion of the facts than the facts.
I agree. It's a very difficult issue, but there are independent third-party sites which can at least rate content. So if someone is out there saying the sky is green or that, Barack Obama isn't an American citizen, they could at least have a rating and verification, just like newspapers do, just like television stations do. Or they could provide a link to say, here are some alternative perspectives if you so choose. I think these tech companies, look, the tech company and social media is very different than television. Television isn't as interactive. People aren't responding to me. It's a broadcast to individuals, and tech is a person-to-person communication. So tech can't be responsible for every single post and the content of every single post. That said, they do need to move towards adopting some journalistic standards of third-party verification, fact verification, so that they give users an informed perspective.
That said, I wonder, how much can we rely on companies to do the right thing or whatever is in the best interest of society rather than what's in the best interest of their business? And how much should the government actually be in charge of figuring out whether there's Russian interference on these platforms? Should there be government regulation?
Well, I think there are two different questions. In terms of the best interest for society, I think that was Silicon Valley's tradition with David Packard and Hewlett-Packard, some of the early founders, Andy Grove. They talked about building technology in a way that would help society, help empower people. And if you talk to tech leaders, that's what they really hope, that their platforms would help improve communication, lead to a more connected world, create more jobs. Tim Cook recently said that business leaders have a moral responsibility to care about education and jobs. Sundar Pichai recently announced a $1 billion initiative to prepare folks for the tech jobs of the future. So I think there is an ongoing awareness with tech leaders that they have to care about their contribution to jobs in places that don't have them and to the democratic conversation, given that they are some of the largest companies in the nation and some of them and have such great responsibility and so many viewers. On the Russia issue, I think we definitely need better intelligence sharing between tech companies and the government so that they can get advance notice if there is suspicious activity and act on it. And tech companies need to help adopt exceptional processing to look at false accounts or bad accounts, bad actors, the way some banks have. Some of it is hiring more people, but even if they hire thousands of more people, given the volume, they probably need investments in machine learning and artificial intelligence to be able to do some of that work. So I'm hopeful a lot of it will be tech coming to its own conclusion, but there will probably be a role for Congress and lawmakers as well to have constructive rules that tech can follow.